Welcome to the Halloween special of Kendo Rant. Hi folks, it's Andy and welcome to Kendo Rant. We've got some fantastic questions for you. Today, we're going old school with the studio and everything. So, other than that, it's a perfectly normal Kendo Rant. Of course, except for the fact that I'm wearing a Halloween costume, which I've clearly spared no expense on preparing. So let's get into these questions. Before I do though, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. There's even creaky floorboards going on. That's how spooky this place is. Like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to ring the Kendo bell. It's science, okay? And shop at KendoStar, 'cause it's the best place in the world. First question. As you probably know, Kendo was prohibited during the US occupation of Japan. Have you ever heard stories about that period where people practicing in secret or did they all stop practicing until the end of the occupation? Another question. Do you know of any good books on Kendo history? So I'm not an expert on Kendo history. I have to say I'm definitely not an expert on that. But I do know that it was prohibited during the US occupation of Japan. I do understand there are stories of it being sort of practiced underground. I don't know massive amounts about that, to be honest. The best thing to do, check out kenshi247.net. That's a fantastic website to check out for Kendo history and that sort of thing. All right, so check that out. And also about a Kendo book. I've got one here. Oof, see that Halloween magic. Okay, here it is. It is Kendo Culture of the Sword by Alexander C. Bennett. Fantastic author on all things Kendo, and this is a great one that talks about all that sort of thing. Anything written by Alex Bennett Sensei, though, of course, is amazing. One of the most influential voices in modern Kendo. So go and check that out. I think you can get it on Amazon. So go and have a look. Next one, if you think of a single aspect of your own Kendo that you'd want to change, rectify, or improve upon at the moment, what would it be? I'd like to be able to wear this costume all the time. No, I'm joking, obviously. I hope it's obvious. I'd like to improve my ashisabaki, my footwork. It's not good enough. And it's the basis of all Kendo, by the way. So not to sort of brush off that answer, but, if you've got good footwork, good ashisabaki, then the rest of you Kendo follows suit. So, I'd like to be better at ashisabaki. Hi Andy, could it be possible in the future that Hidari Kote from Chudan no Kamae be considered as Ippon? What do you think? So Hidari Kote means left Kote. If you're against somebody that does Jodan, you're allowed to hit the left Kote as well as the right one. But if they're in Chudan, you're not allowed to. So the question is in the future, do you think it will be allowable to strike at the left Kote even if the opponent's in Chudan? No, I don't think that's something that's likely to happen. I don't think it's an effective waza against somebody in Chudan. If you could make an attack at the left kote, you could make an attack at the right kote. So there's no real necessity for it to be included either. So I don't imagine that will be something that's happening. Next one. Do senseis read our essays during Shinsa? A dojo mate of mine once turned in a page of chicken scratch he wrote in the car on the way to the Shinsa, and he still passed his shodan. Just wondering how much weight they're given. So, I don't think the actual panel reads them. Usually, somebody does read them, though, I think. So I'm going to say yes. They probably do read them. But, if it's like shodan, nidan level, it's not like you have to write anything particularly complicated. You shouldn't have to anyway. One interesting point, though, is that in Japan, it's very different to, certainly in the UK, how they deal with the written test. In the UK, they present a question and you write an answer, that interprets the question. So you give your sort of understanding of the question and you sort of answer in reference to that. Whereas in Japan, there's a question and then there's a book you buy that has the official answer, and you have to memorize the answer and copy it out verbatim, which I think is kind of an interesting difference. But as far as I'm aware, they do check them. I did my 5th dan in Japan years ago, and I was allowed to write half of it in English. I had to do half of it in Japanese, because it was like a fill in the blanks bit. And then I had to do the other part where I was allowed to write that in English, but I had to translate it. I had to read what I'd written to the grading panel in Japanese. So they definitely checked it. Next one. Hi Andy, I was wondering, did you ever finish Ghost of Tsushima? If you did, what did I think of the game? Also, if someone wanted the entire inside of their men to be red, would that be possible? I heard or read somewhere that samurai used to paint the inside of their helmets red so that it would cast a red filter over their face to make them look more intimidating. Thought that would look cool. So, yes, I did finish Ghost of Tsushima. It's a fantastic game. It's brilliant. Probably one of the best ones on the PlayStation 4. I thought it was fantastic. I'm actually playing through it a second time right now. They just added a new Game Plus feature, and it's pretty awesome. So yeah, I did enjoy it a lot. In terms of the red on the inside, most mengane, the cage on the men, is painted red on the inside for that reason, because traditionally the menpo, which is the mask that goes on with the yoroi, and often lots of the inside of the samurai armor, the yoroi, was painted with a red colored lacquer, and it was because it reflects the red back to the face and is said to give you a more fierce complexion. I'm not sure how that works with a menpo, to be honest. Never worn one. But that's the reason that they spray the inside of the mengane red. So it already is red on the inside of the men for that reason. Hey Andy, another question I have is, what are the regulations for shinai when it comes to nito? What are the size weight requirements for the daito and shoto? Well, the answer for that is coming up right now. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, shop at KendoStar. So the question is, what are the regulations for the shinai for nito, for the daito and the shoto? And basically, there's a book. We sell it on KendoStar. It's the guide for the regulations of Kendo Shiai and Shimpan. It's in there. I think it's in the other book as well, the ultimate guide to Kendo instruction. So yeah, as you can see, by the way, I'm only half costume now. It's a bit hot in this. So the regulations, they're listed in here. Don't know if you can see that. But they are listed in here. But I'll quickly tell you for nito, for the daito, it has to be shorter than 114 centimeters. And the shoto has to be shorter than 62 centimeters. The weight for a male for the daito has to be more than 440 grams. And more than 400 grams for a female. And the shoto has to be, I think it's, between 280 grams and 300 grams for a male, and between 250 grams and 280 grams for a female. Okay, and there's diameter rules and stuff as well. I'm not going to read them all out on here, but basically, put in a simpler way, they are the same as a 37 size shinai. Okay, they're the same as for the daito. Okay, they're the same as a 37 size shinai, which is normally used by junior high school aged children. Okay. Next one. Hi Andy, why do we have to score 2 ippons to win a match? Where did that number come from? On another note, is it possible to get a kendogi with various patterns, not the typical rice grain, but also sorts of geometric shapes outside of the kioi? So, why do we do Sanbon Shobu? It's called Sanbon Shobu when we fight for the best of 2 points. That isn't like a set thing. It's just the most common format of Shiai, because it kind of there's plenty of Shiai that are Ippon Shobu. So it's just Ippon. First one to get Ippon is the winner. There's plenty of Shiai like that. Plenty, actually. But Sanbon Shobu, seems to be a little bit more a lot more common, and I think it's just because it's like, well, you know, if you're unlucky and you just lose a point, and it just seems a little bit more balanced, and I think it's a more interesting, makes for a more interesting Shiai, to be honest. I don't think there's an official reason why it switched to Sanbonsho, but maybe there is. Maybe there is. In terms of the texture of the Kendogi, of course, the Orizashi pattern, the rice grain that you mentioned, that's where it's all threaded, is probably the most common. You've got the Kioi, which is the sort of geometric shapes. Otherwise, there's like a waffle style one where it's like a grid pattern. We can help you out with those if you want one. I tend to prefer the Kioi though, to be honest. But otherwise, no, there's not loads of different types of textures in terms of the Kendogi without going into really kind of exuberant type ones, you know, like with the Musashi Zashi where it's a different colour. And of course there are those as well, but then you know, they're kind of not so popular. Next one. Hi Andy, in your last Kendo rant, you kindly showed a video embodying what you see as beautiful Kendo. Can you please describe in words what you see as beautiful Kendo, or the end goal you are hoping to achieve in Kendo? So yeah, last time we talked about, somebody asked me what my favourite match of all time was, and we showed the one of Ando versus Chikamoto from, I think it was the 51st All Japan Championships final. Just fantastic Shiai. And it's really that both of the players are really facing off against each other. There's a really strong seme between the two of them. That seme-ai is really strong between the two of them, and both of them leap forward and challenge that men strike without fear. They just throw away their fears and just challenge that men strike. And obviously one of them's victorious and the other isn't. But for me, it's that, you know, that interaction, that point where you're kind of suppressing your anxiety as well as your desire to strike, whilst applying seme, whilst receiving seme, and then when the time's there to challenge, to throw everything your whole weight behind it, without fear of defeat, but with determination to win. I think is the pinnacle of what Kendo really is about. And that's why sometimes, like if I'm doing Keiko with the high-graded sensei, perhaps there's quite a big age gap, and I do these kind of waza like this where I kind of trick my shinai around and whack a cheeky kote in there somewhere. Or I wait for them to attack me and just wait, and then because I'm faster, I whip my hands up and do a cheeky kaishido. I don't feel like that's a valid strike. Even if I hit the perfect strike with, you know, yeah, maybe it would be awarded, but if it was the Shiai, but like I feel like I was defeated because I couldn't challenge myself against that sensei, you know? So yeah, I guess that's it. Next one. Hello Andy, I'm interested in the different Japanese come on. I see these sometimes on uniforms or on the Kendo Dodai. Are there any issues with putting one on your one you like on your gear, or is this frowned upon unless you have some actual connection with that historic family or area of Japan? Thanks. So kamon are the little round, they're usually round, you see them often either embroidered on hakama or sometimes on the dodai. I've got a couple on my dodai. They're the kamon that my wife's family allowed me to use and wear. I wouldn't recommend necessarily just picking one you like at random and then just start putting that on stuff. It is a family crest. It is something that's attached to people's families. So it's probably better not to do that. But I don't. At the same time, nobody's gonna like sort of start clutching at the pearls if you're doing that. You know, it's not like that kind of thing. It's just, you know, probably better not. I probably wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for the fact that, you know, my wife's father said that I was okay to, you know, he was happy for me to do that. So I have it on a door, two of my door, I think. But I don't like plaster it all over myself everywhere. So yeah. Next one. In Shinai, there are kanjis above the tsukagawa. Is this the model or of the Shinai or the maker's company name or something else? So what you? I'm sorry. There's more here as well. After practice, what is the best way to fold your men to get that perfect Mount Fuji shape? And when doing hikiwaza, could it be scored ippon if you use suriashi instead of fumikomi? So the first one about the kanji. Kanji is the Japanese or Chinese pictographic characters that are written on the shinai above the tsukagawa. Usually that's That's the name of the shinai. So if you look on the KendoStar website, we have like shinai called junki and koren and tokon, and they're Japanese words, and the kanji there says junki or koren, and it means different things. So yeah, that sort of thing. Junki, for example, means pure brightness. So in terms of shaping your men after practice, the best way to do it is just tie it up like you were tying it on your head, and then shape the mendare in that way, and then put it back in the bogu bag that way. And then when you're back home, take it out, lay it down flat with the mengane facing up, and pull the mendare to make that shape, and leave it laid flat that way, and it will start to form that shape naturally. When doing hikiwaza, scoring ippon with suriashi instead of fumikomi, yeah, of course it's theoretically possible, but it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to get that separation without leaping back with a fumikomi. It's not impossible, but it's very, very difficult, okay? So unless there's a very good reason that you can't do fumikomi, don't avoid doing fumikomi because it's hard, okay? That's something that I see a lot, all right? If you can do the fumikomi, obviously, I don't mean like ability-wise. I mean, if for some reason you can't do fumikomi, like, you know, some injury or something like that, that's understandable. But if, you know, if it's just you find doing fumikomi hard, then no, I don't think that's acceptable to replace it with suriashi in that case. Next one, very important question, Sensei. Trick or treat? Treat, always. Shop at KendoStar. On a more serious note, Kendo is a uni fresher with limited budget, but he wants to take on Kendo. He sees everyone in flashy gear, but whilst he can buy a set of gi and hakama and shinai and bokuto and a bag, he can't buy a full set of armor. He decides to buy boga parts individually. Which part should he buy first? I suspect kote, but what would you say? Well, first I'd say don't buy the parts separately. You pay a lot more buying them separately because manufacturers get a discount by making a whole set together, because that's how they manage their stock. So it's always cheaper to buy a full set together. You always get a better deal on buying a full set together. That might cost more, so don't buy a kote, a men, and a tare, and a do all separately spaced over a year. Save the money over that time and buy a set in 6 months' time rather than a year's time or a year and a half's time that it'll take you to buy all of the parts separately. He's going to end up with a full boga set later than he would if he's missed the dough. He's going to end up with the boga set later by doing it that way. Okay, he needs to. It'd be about saving the money and buying the whole set together, all right? There's no rush to get into the armor, no rush to get into boga. Keep working on the basics, keep working on the fundamentals, and then when you can afford to buy the full set, buy the full set. If you must buy the set parts separately, yeah, sure, buy the kote, then buy the tare, then buy the do, then buy the men, I guess. Okay, next one. This may have been answered before, but what's the etiquette and rules around falling? Like, if you get knocked on your butt or something, can ippon be scored? Should it? Was just wondering how that's handled. So, if you fall over or get knocked over, yes, there's a moment before the shimpan stop the match where you can be struck. So falling on the ground doesn't instantly result in the match being stopped. Sometimes people fall on the ground and get back up and the match never stops. Okay, well, if you've fallen over and you clearly sort of, proper wipeout, then usually the shimpan will give a second or two for your opponent to have a chance to strike at you, unless it's obviously dangerous if they were to do that, and then they'll stop the match and let you get up then. But if you're struck while you're on the ground, yeah, that's fair, and you can lose a ippon for that. Next one. This is the last one. We're almost there. I've been watching some of the Embu matches from the Kyoto Taikai on YouTube. It's been interesting to note that all the matches I've seen, at least so far, have only involved male participants. My understanding is that the Kyoto Taikai is by invitation, and participants must be of 6th dan and above, although I'm quite happy to be corrected. There are women, female kendoka of these grades. Are these women allowed to participate in the Kyoto Taikai? So yeah, there's plenty of women that participate in the Kyoto Taikai. The Kyoto Taikai, you have to be renshi, not 6th dan. You have to be renshi or above. It's the renshi division, kyoshi division, and hanshi division. It's not dan. It's done on shogo. Okay, and there are plenty of women that participate in it. There are not as many women women with shogo as there are men at the moment, because that's the demographics of high-grade kendo right now. That's going to change though, I think, as things go forward. As there's more and more and more high-grade women coming through the system. I'm sure, personally, in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll probably see the first female Hachidan, for example. And yeah, we do, you know, we will definitely see that. So yeah, there are women that participate in it. The thing is that those matches don't tend to go on YouTube, because a lot of the famous women players, because, you know, whatever you want to say or think about it, the fact of the matter is that famous women players is a relatively recent concept, because in the past, now people in Japan are starting to live a different type of life to how they did in previous generations. It's only a recent thing that women have also become very, very sort of recognized in the kendo environment, competitive scene, for example. Yeah, so there's always been an All Japan Championships, but like these really famous players that have been part of the Japanese team and have won it multiple times, stuff like that. That's a relatively recent concept. Okay, so I think that's why there's not that many super famous female players, and therefore they don't get highlighted at the Kyoto Taikai and put videos up on YouTube. But they're definitely there. I've been to the Kyoto Taikai a handful of times, and every time I've seen plenty of women high-graded senseis participating. It's not by invitation only, by the way. You can apply to participate as long as you have the grade of Renshi. I believe that if you're not Japanese, if you're like a foreigner, you can apply at 6th dan even if you don't have Renshi. I don't know. But yeah, officially the rules are Renshi, Kyoshi, and Hanshi. Okay, that's it. Thank you for joining me for today. I hope you had a good time. Happy Halloween. And I'll see you all next time. Shop at KendoStar. Bye.